What do you say to the people you meet who are on the third marriage, their kids don't talk to them, and there are certain things that they have convinced themselves, subconsciously or otherwise, maybe through an abusive upbringing or trauma, whatever it might be, that it is unsafe to feel certain things. And you come in, they've asked for help, but they do not want to open Pandora's box, right? They do not want someone to drag them into the deep waters of emotions that they've kept under lock and key for so long. How do you help someone like that? What do you suggest to them? Because it does get messy, right? It's going to get messy before it gets clean, right?
Yeah.
At least in my experience, it's like you're going to do spring cleaning. Guess what? You got to take all the things that are up on the shelves, all the things in the drawers, all the things that are hanging on coat hangers, and you're going to put them in the middle of the room, and it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a fucking mess.
Yeah, and you're going to be pissed that you did it halfway through.
But you can't really get past go without that type of step. So for someone who's listening to this and says, you know what, I buy it, like I get it, and yet what do I do? Because I've had on this armor for so long.
So I would say a couple of things. I mean, the first thing I always feel like is really important to say is that I'm a researcher, and so I'm not a therapist. That would be differentiate me and Esther. Like, I don't see clients. If I go in and I'm working with CEOs and this question comes up all the time, what I would say to people is Pandora's box is closed right now. But are you under the impression that you're living outside of the box or in the box?
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to open Pandora's box, because that's strange to me, because you're living inside Pandora's box. And what I feel like you've asked me to come here to open it up. Like, we're not going to do this process without walking through some deep shit. There's going to be deep, swift water. And if the water is super deep and swift, you need to go through that with a therapist and get that settled before we work in the organizational way. But what I would say to people, what I always say is the same for me, and I'm sure the same for you, that we all grew up and experienced to varying degrees trauma, disappointment, hell, hard stuff. We armored up, and at some point, that armor no longer serves us. And so what I think I would say to that person is, how is not talking about this serving you? Mm-hmm. Like, I've been sober for 23 years, so someone in AA would be like, how's that shit working for you? Mm-hmm. But I probably would put a softer spin on it than that. Right. Over black coffee and a cigarette. But I would say that it's not serving anymore. Mm-hmm. And now the weight of the armor is too heavy, and it's not protecting you. It's keeping you from being seen and known by others. Mm-hmm. And so this is, just tell you quintessentially, this is the developmental milestone of midlife. From late 30s to, through probably your 60s, this is the question. This is when the universe comes down and puts her hands on your shoulders and pulls you close and whispers in your ear, I'm not fucking around. You're halfway to dead. The armor is keeping you from growing into the gifts I've given you. That is not without penalty. Time is up. So this is what you see happen to people in midlife. And it's not a crisis. It's a slow, brutal unraveling. And this is where everything that we thought protected us keeps us from being the partners, the parents, the professionals, the people that we want to be. And I've only seen, this is a fork in the road. I've only seen 2 responses to this visit from the universe. Well, there was my response, which I was like, screw you, bring it. Like, you think you can best me? And then it was just one nightmare situation after another until, you're not going to win that fight.
Right.
I think if you say, you know what, I'm not going to do it, then you've got to double down. These are the people that walk through the world, double down on their own shit, in denial, cheek squeezed as they walk, and cause so much pain in the world.
Yeah. To themselves as well.
Right. Yes, because it is so much easier to offload pain than to feel pain.
Yeah.
And so you really have a choice in midlife, whether you're going to, identify, the first step of it, the whole process is what armor. And I'm not saying just pull off all the armor and streak through Austin, because I think you can replace the armor with something. I think it's curiosity is what you replace it. You just become very curious about yourself, about the world. Why did I react that way? When Tim asked me that question, I wanted to hit him over the head with a Topo Chico bottle. What was going on there? Do you know what I mean? What is my obsession about this? You just become very curious. Curiosity is really the superpower for the second half of our lives, because it keeps us learning, it keeps us asking questions, and it increases our self-awareness. But when you see, and I think it's really hard because, I'll walk into a situation and there'll be the person who invited me is usually the CEO. And then you'll have the cross-armed, pissed off, clenched cheek, F you looking person, usually in operations or technology, and then they're like, what's the business case for you being here?
Yeah, right.
Because, here's our stock price, here's what's going on, here's our valuation, what do you need? And then, the CEO usually say, fucking hate each other. And this can only last for so long. It's the end of every great band, right? This is going to come to an end and it's going to be terrible. And so, I don't know, I think you can't pull it all off at once. You have to, for a lot of people, for all of us, there's trauma.
Yeah.
And people are like, no, there's not trauma for all of us. There's trauma for, people who have been abused physically, sexually, emotionally. There's trauma for people of color and people who have been on the margins. There's trauma for all of us. It's just different levels of trauma.
Yeah.
To escape childhood with nothing I haven't met that person yet.
No, I haven't either.
Right. So the trauma stuff, literally the trauma message in our body is, you take this armor off, we die. So you protect us at all cost and leave this on. A lot of that work has to be done with a therapist.